Basic facts were that there was a hotel along the interstate highway that didn't allow African Americans to stay there overnight, essentially, and they found there that um, the uh, the activity in question, right, was hindering interstate travel because you got to assume that truck drivers, you know, if they're going to be discriminated against, that means they're going to alter their travel routes to kind of go around that area that they know they can't stay at. Um, and once you're, hindering or not hindering, but once you're altering your travel route right through interstate highway, I mean, you got to imagine that it doesn't really affect. You can't really illustrate it more perfectly how that affects interstate travel, right? They're just going to avoid the state entirely if they know that they're going to have problems finding places to stay. They're just going to alter their travel route entirely, and that might lead to less businesses shipping goods to them because it's going to be more expensive or harder to find truck drivers to go in there and deliver goods, right? So they might just stop shipping goods there altogether, right? Eventually, obviously further down the line. Um, so in that case, it wasn't essentially a good that was being restricted, right? It was people. Um, and you'll see the same thing with the Katzenbach case, just in a restaurant setting, essentially on an international highway. Um, and from these cases, you can start to gather your arguments as to um, how how you're going to argue that this substantially affects interstate commerce, right? Um, these cases alone should give you a lot of ammunition on how to illustrate how some activity is substantially affecting interstate commerce or it is within the stream of commerce, right? And we'll go to the Lopez case once we get back after spring break. So that should pretty much do it for this session. I'll go over these questions though that I've attached to the email as well, so you guys can kind of take a look at them. So if you guys need to pause this video really quick so you can pull up that attachment, we can go through these questions. Do so now. So if you're looking now at the questions that were attached to the email, we're really only focusing on the first and second question, right? And the first question starts off by saying, using the substantial effects theory set out in Shreveport rate case, evaluate the following regulation by Congress. And the basic fact pattern is that the shipping company was basically charging a cheaper rate to ship goods within the state than, and it charged a higher rate to ship goods out of the state, right? And the Congress determined that this practice was giving internal commerce a significant advantage over interstate commerce of the same goods, and passed a law that requiring shipping companies to equalize the rates, right? So Congress passed the law to equalize the rates, and the company is challenging the law that Congress has exceeded its Commerce Clause authority and is attempting to regulate purely intrastate activity. Now, if you look at the answer choices, we'll say that A is wrong because the goods shipped were part of the stream of commerce. But remember, the call of the question up in the beginning says to use the substantial effects theory, right? A is talking about the stream of commerce. So, the call of the question is asking for a different test than answer A provides. Answer B is correct. Yes, because the interstate activity being regulated had a close, substantial connection to interstate traffic, right? Um, because we know there that the similar to the Shreveport rate case, right? Um, the rates there had a close and substantial relation to interstate traffic, to the efficiency of interstate service, and to the maintenance and condition about under which interstate commerce may be conducted upon fair terms, right? Um, letter C is wrong. No, because the shipping activities Congress sought to regulate were completely interstate. Well, we know that's not right because Congress can regulate things that are intrastate if they have a substantial effect on interstate commerce, right? Um, D, no, because the shipping company was a private company organized under the laws of the state of Montana. That's just kind of a red herring. Um, Regardless if it's a private company, the company has standing to challenge a government statute, right? And that's what they're doing in this case. Um, and so moving to question 2, I said evaluate the following fact pattern using the stream of commerce theory of congressional commerce power. And in this case, the Mr. Mayberry was in the practice of selling cotton, or I'm sorry, he was in the practice of ginning and cleaning the cotton product, right? And then the farmers would take um, that product and they would sell it all across the country. And essentially, Mr. Mayberry was creating a price fixing scheme pretty much to artificially inflate the costs of cotton production. So the government sued Mayberry and the other gin owners under this federal statute, the Sherman Act, to break up the price fixing scheme. Mayberry went and challenged the law on the ground that all of his activities of cleaning and ginning the cotton took place wholly inside the state and therefore were outside the realm of Congress's authority to regulate interstate commerce. And we asked, does his claim prevail? And the answer is A, no. Because even though Mayberry is not actively engaged in interstate commerce, his operation is clearly part of the stream of interstate commerce and may therefore be regulated by Congress, right? Because granted, Mr. Mayberry's only activity is cleaning the product and prepping the product. And the facts dictate that he's not actively engaged in the selling of the product to go over interstate lines. We know that the product is eventually going to end up in the stream of commerce, right? And Mr. Mayberry knows that. The facts indicate that Mr. Mayberry knows that the farmers buying the product know that, or he knows at least that the product is going to cross interstate lines. And regardless of if he knew or didn't know, you might have a little bit of an argument saying, well, maybe Mr. Mayberry didn't know. He didn't know that ultimately his product was going to cross state lines, right? But oftentimes you'll see that the court doesn't really give a whole lot of thought to whether the actor knew, to the actor's knowledge of whether his product was going to go across state lines or not. They just take the fact that it does, right? They kind of, determine that this product does in fact get sold, right? They don't take into account the actor's knowledge necessarily. So don't get too bogged up on that. We had a question like that during tutoring. So, and you will see the B's wrong. No, Mayberry's activities have a substantial and close effect on interstate commerce and fall under commerce power. Just like the last question, we know that, that's using a different test than what the question asked for, so it's wrong. Okay. Now, had I not asked, had I not asked in the beginning of the question to use the stream of commerce theory, then A and B would probably be correct, right? Meaning that I would have had to change E to both A and B or something like that. But always pay attention to the calling of question and see what they're asking. We know that C is wrong because it says Mayberry's activities are most closely related to interstate manufacturing and mining, and may therefore not be regulated by Congress. But we know that's wrong because ultimately, you're going to use that substantial effects test or the stream of commerce test. It doesn't matter that it's wholly interstate. The question is, or the test is whether the activity in question is going to substantially affect interstate commerce. And then none of the above, right? And like I said, I will. I'll send, or you should be able to see a little bit of the explanation in some of those questions. But that's pretty much it for this week's tutoring. Sorry that this video took a little bit to send out. This is actually the third time that I record this, because the first two times I tried to do it on the Panopto system, it didn't work. So I spent like an hour and a half trying to figure that stuff out, and this seemed like the easiest way. But for you guys that are listening and it's still spring break, know that I'm available for questioning via email. If you guys want to meet at school, that's completely fine too. Just send me an email and let me know ahead of time, at least the day before, so I can plan accordingly. Because I have no problem going down to school and meeting you guys if you need some help over the break, trying to get all this stuff caught up. So just let me know. I hope you guys have a good spring break, and I look forward to seeing you guys when you get back.